Hey everyone, welcome to the Quest for Wisdom YouTube channel. My name's Connor. This is my first video actually just talking into the camera, so bear with me. I'm going to explain today how I learned Portuguese in 5 months. I'm going to explain easily basically the steps on of how to learn a language quickly and efficiently. I've studied languages all of my life. I love languages. No, I would not say that I'm naturally talented at languages. Whenever people ask me, they say, oh, you must be naturally gifted at languages, and the reality is no. I meet plenty of people who pick them up just by living in a place or just being around the language, but really learning a language requires a lot of work and practice, and I'm going to teach you an efficient way of doing it, but it still requires dedication, and the more hours you put in, the quicker it will be. But there is no real cheat way to learn a language. You have to listen, read, speak and write to get good at a language. The more you do it, the quicker it'll happen. So I'm going to show now what I did. I'm going to record on my phone the quickest way to practice speaking, and by doing this you'll practice speaking, writing, reading, you'll learn vocabulary, and you'll learn everything you need to speak the language. Alongside this, obviously, another video I'll make is about how to learn grammar, the easiest way to not get bogged down with grammar. So these two things need to go hand in hand. So you can do this tactic, what I'm going to teach you now. You can do it at any level of the language. Obviously, if you know a little bit of the grammar and everything, it's easier for you, but you can start with next to no knowledge of the language and still be able to speak with people, and I'll show you how. So I'm going to screen record my phone now. So what we're going to do is download, there are various different apps you can use. One of them is called Tandem, and one of them is called Hello Talk. Now Tandem I use for Portuguese, but I'm learning Russian now and Catalan, and so I've been using this for Russian, as for some reason Tandem doesn't have very many Russian people on it, but basically they're the same thing. It links you with native speakers of the language you want to learn, and it allows you to talk with them about anything you want, and those natives will want to learn your native language, so it's a little bit, matchmaking based on your languages. So as you can see here, I've got a folder on my phone which is for languages. Duolingo I'm not a fan of. I think it's sort of a waste of time, and there are much quicker and easier ways of learning, much faster. I know it's good for some people that they like the structure of it, and they like, that it reminds you to do stuff, but for people that have got motivation, I don't really think that it's the quickest way to learn. Really, I know a lot of people that have worked well for it, but for me personally anyway, I know it was sort of useless, and I've tried it with lots of different languages. Lingua is a very good app. It's got various different European languages on it. Spanish dictionary, Tandem I told you about, Hello Talk, and then I don't know why that other WhatsApp's in there. But so we'll go into Hello Talk, and we'll see here this person that I started talking with. So the reason why I'm showing this example is because this is the perfect example. Whenever I tell people about these apps, they always say to me, but what language do we speak in, if I'm trying to learn Russian, she's trying to learn, or they are trying to learn English, how do we know when to speak Russian or English? And I said, well, it's up to you. It's up to how greedy or how selfish you want to be, basically. But this girl does it great, because she started and she does half of it in English and half of it in Russian. So it's really good. So she says, hey, how's it going? I could help you with Russian if you need it. So I said, hey, sorry, just seen this, как дела, which is, how are you? So she responds then, hey, it's okay. And then she responds, I know what that means, but often my Russian isn't that great yet. I've done a lot of grammar practice and listening practice, but I've not done a lot of speaking. So I knew what that meant, but if I didn't know what it meant, all I do is copy it. I then go into Google Translate. I Google Translate it. So then I get the translation here. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So then now I know what she says. Let's say I don't know what to say back because my Russian's very, very bad. In English, I say, I am good, thank you. Copy. So now I'm learning these. Now I'm learning these words. Learning those words, and then I can respond to her. Then we go, and I say a few other things that I want to know. So I say to her, "Where are you from?" You know, I'm starting with the most simple things I can think of that I can translate from English into Russian. You know, really simple questions. Because obviously, the more complicated you make your question, the more likely it is to be wrong when you translate it. So you can think of, you know, the most simple things. Yeah, it's not the most interesting conversation ever. We're not going to be talking in depth about things, but it depends on your level, you know. The better your level is, the more complicated you can make your questions. But all it really is asking a question, reading a response, asking a question, reading the response, and just developing a conversation like that. I know when I started, I was very embarrassed about saying boring things, or about saying stupid things, about making mistakes. But at the end of the day, no one cares because everybody wants to learn the languages. Everybody's there to practice. When you make a mistake, most people will just correct you. And you know, so long as you keep what you're saying relatively simple, for depending on your level, you can go along and you can have a full conversation with someone, just copy and pasting, reading, copy and pasting, reading. And more you'll start improving your vocabulary. You'll start recognizing the patterns. Your brain will start making it'll start making guesses. It'll start making jumps between different words, between different patterns, between different grammar structures. And so long as you're doing that grammar practice on the side, your brain will start picking it all up bit by bit. The more you practice at this, it'll just become natural. It'll become natural. And I did this for 5 months. After about 3 months, maybe even less than that, maybe 2-3 months, I spoke with a Brazilian person in Barcelona. We met up for a language exchange, and I managed to talk for 2 hours. I made a load of mistakes, of course, but I managed to talk in Portuguese for 2 hours. Yeah, it was really difficult. It was really hard. I made a ton of mistakes. I felt stupid a lot of the time, but I did it. And I realized that I'd never spoken a single word of it before. I'd never spoken any of it out loud. I'd just done it by practicing. But I knew what it sounded like because I'd done a lot of listening practice. I'd listened to a ton of grammar, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I listened to streams of podcasts without understanding a word of what they say. And your brain just picks everything up. The more information you throw in there, the more information it picks up. So yeah, you can go back to this, you know, have you ever been to Russia? Where do you live? Have you ever been to Russia? I live in Barcelona. Yes, I went to Moscow for 5 days. See, we're switching in between the Russian and the English. But you were born in the UK, right? St. Petersburg is a beautiful city. I think you'd like it. You know, it's just very simple things, but we're both practicing what we want to say. I'll say a few things in English, then I'll say a question. You know, the things that I like to look up and say, how to say are things, you know, personal things about me, which are the things that I'm most likely to if someone asks me, I'm most likely to need to say that were I to have a conversation with someone, you know, a stranger in Russian. the most important things are to be able to answer questions that people ask you. Where are you from? What do you do? Where do you live? How old are you? And then the things that you need to say to other people are based around those things, you know. The same sort of questions, just to get to know people. To be able to communicate, you don't really need a huge amount of vocabulary in any language to be able to you know, literally walk to the shop, buy a few things in return, or get in a taxi, or ask for directions, or something like that. The actual basic things that you need to communicate to someone in a language are usually very, very simple, and the rest of it is just learning words. Once you have the grammar structures in place, all you have to do is learn words, and those words you'll learn every single day, just by picking them up. But you need the basis there. You need to know how to string a sentence together. So I'll go into more detail in other videos, but this is just a little intro video for my my little series I'm going to do about how to learn languages. And like I said, I'm learning Russian now and Catalan, and so I'll tell a lot of other different tricks and tips that I've learned along the way from studying different languages and traveling and speaking every day different languages. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you've got any questions, if you don't like what I'm saying, if you don't agree, anything like that, that's fine. Just leave a comment and subscribe for more videos. Thanks very much. Bye.